Ah, Halloween is upon us. The season of festivities, fright, and me talking in nebulous terms about the concepts of fear, terror, and dread, and the imaginary lines which separate them. And much like Jason or Michael Myers resurrecting at the end of their movies as the financial analysts of those movie studios demand, I too resurrect to make another video as my roughly 2,000 subscribers demand. Though this time I will be taking a different lens on my usual annual talking points. This time I wish to talk about what various methodologies of instilling fear in an audience mean to the audience itself. But I want to do so through the lens of sometimes fitting sports analogies. So, let's dive in. Have you ever seen those marketing stunts for horror movies where they essentially monitor the heart rates and anxiety levels of the audience in the test screening theaters? And every time a horror movie seems to come out, it somehow manages to break the record of like most anxiety ever or highest beats per minute of all time. To me, when I see this, I think, hey, sure, that's nice, but how are we getting there? See, this is essentially the box score of a horror movie in a roundabout way. And as most fans of the NBA or NFL or any sport can tell you, the box score is not everything. There's a lot of intangibles and things that you'd need to watch the game, or in this case the film, to truly understand. For example, the concept of stat padding. Basically, this is when players score points or improve on their metrics during meaningless parts of the game, or do add to their own personal statistics in ways that are not helpful to their own team in totality. Examples of this in sports might be a star player scoring in the final moments of a basketball game when it will have no impact on the outcome of winning or losing, and the defense isn't really trying to stop them because it doesn't matter anymore. It's meaningless. It has no impact on the viewer in a lasting way. The numbers are numbers, and they don't go away because of this, but they're cheapened. This, effectively to me, is like a jump scare in a horror movie. This is like the schlocky slasher films, which rely on surprise and shock or overt gore to get people to feel afraid in a given moment. Yeah, in that moment, it might make your heart skip a beat or something, but at the end of the day, are those jump scare moments you will genuinely look back on and remember? Will you reflect on them fondly? Think of them late at night as you stay up and wonder if you really did lock your front door? Will they be in the back of your mind as your door creaks or your apartment settles and you wonder if maybe you should roll over to see the other side of the room, just to be sure? Maybe you should get out of bed and be really sure that the noise was actually nothing. No, they're there in the moment, and then they're gone from the viewer's consciousness, never to keep in their mind beyond that brief, cheap hit of fear they were able to provide in passing. They're a street drug, a shortcut to a high that is fleeting and unsustainable. With only jump scares or stat padding, you don't have something that lasts. You don't have a body of work worth remembering, and you don't have staying in the cultural consciousness. In 20 years, no one is going to search up your scenes on YouTube or rewatch your film for the burst of surprise in that one moment. Just like no one is going on YouTube to watch garbage time highlights of Dak Prescott throwing touchdowns when he's down by 2 scores in the final minutes of games. Or SGA hitting his 14th free throw of the night to get him to 25 points. It's unexciting and uninteresting and doesn't really warrant consideration as a serious feat within the art form. Now, do these things have their place in the larger picture? Absolutely. I am by no means trying to say jump scares are universally useless or cheaper than slower burn types of horror. But what I am saying is they are relatively shallow and they do not on their own survive. They require more substance to be maintained in the larger picture. They are the ketchup of the horror movie meal. They are the cherry of my video essay Mixed Metaphor Sunday that we are only diving deeper and deeper into here. And this brings me to the extension of this analogy, ethical hoopers. This is a slightly more niche term than stat padding, but it's something we can use to compare certain athletes, and by extension, certain films. Refer back to my example of SGA. He is one of the premier talents in the NBA, no doubt, but there is no denying a considerable chunk of his scoring comes from his ability to draw fouls and shoot free throws. We are 2 games into the current NBA season. He's already taken 43 throws. I believe that's on pace to shoot some ridiculous number like 1,300 throughout the season. Intrinsically, this style of play is far less dynamic and less captivating to a viewer than, say, Ja Morant's slashing or Zion Williamson's powerful dunks. In effect, all of them are scoring 20-something points per game. If you look at the numbers, they seem the same. But 90% of the world is going to prefer watching Ja or Zion's 20 than SGA's. It's inherently a better and more engaging product for the viewer. It's also healthier for the long-term sustenance of the medium. If basketball becomes synonymous with free throws and foul baiting and players min-maxing the rules to their benefit, its entertainment value and share of the cultural zeitgeist drops. The same is true of horror. If all horror movies are is shock value and surprises and gore, they fail as a collective over time. They become cheap and unattractive in our collective consciousness because we know that they are effectively exploiting their medium. They're investing the minimum in order to get the maximum from their audience in the very, very short term. And generally, audiences don't really enjoy being treated this way. The illusion wears off over time and audiences wise up. The viewers and dollars eventually stop flowing in. But when you have something like Steph Curry, something that has mass appeal while also having genuine depth and complexity to it, that's when the entire landscape can change. For instance, Get Out blew up in a way no horror movie ever really did before it. And that wasn't because of the few jump scares that it had within it. Yes, those were effective parts of the film, but they also served the larger story Get Out was telling. They were accents to the dreadful scenario that was playing out. They were bursts of emotion and fear amongst a beautiful, intricate movie filled with other anxiety-inducing and chilling sequences. And not only that, there was complexity to everything that happened in the film. It wasn't just scares. It was theme and subtext. It was something with enough depth to warrant discussion over time and a place in our collective minds over the years. So much so that I'm able to use it as an example some 7 years later, and you still probably know exactly what I mean. Get Out breathed a new kind of life and brought a new expectation of horror films collectively, in the same way that Steph Curry's dynamic off-ball movement and three-ball changed the NBA landscape while making for an electric viewing experience. They were ethical, genuine, earnest ways of beautifully utilizing their medium to give us the best final product that was possible within that space. For Curry, this meant draining insane, long-distance shots right in defenders' faces on a whim, without fail, even in the biggest of moments. For Get Out and so many new-era horror films, this meant finding ways to scare the shit out of us while giving us poignant commentary, permeating senses of dread, and genuine lasting fear throughout their runtimes. If horror films are meant to have their names hung up in the non-existent Hall of Fame, they need to do more than collect numbers and raise heart rates. Just like players need to do more than have raw statistics. They need to plant their seeds in our minds with not only the fear that lingers in us after the credits roll, but the ideas they posit if we look to them on a deeper level. They need a legacy just like any individual athlete might. And to me, horror films with legacies are those that scare me as much when I'm not watching them as when I am. Ones whose concepts and ideas are relentless as their implications sit in my mind after I finish the film. One whose scenes you stop and watch on TikTok when they're on your page because they're just that good and worth revisiting, like prime LeBron James highlights. So yeah, that's my belief on scares this year. Hopefully this wasn't too absurd or ridiculous of a video. Hopefully it was amusing and made at least an inkling of sense, and hopefully you enjoy the Halloween season as much as I do. Until next time.